Society.
Strangers. Strangers in society.
Strangers on the internet.
The secret.
Strangers. Society. Oh, welcome, stranger.
Secret to society.
Oh, it's perfect because what's our topic today?
Welcome to the secret society.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Secret Society of Strangers podcast. I'm Lee, and what kind of society would this be without my strangers, Josh and Jen?
What up, other strangers?
Hello.
Today, we're diving into Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. We're going to go beyond the novel. We're going to talk about her influences and what the movie has influenced. There's a lot there to unpack, so hopefully we have a lot of fun getting into it.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting because mostly people like get Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster confused by like who's who.
Yes.
But there's just some days I feel like Frankenstein's monster. I'm just lost, wondering where I went wrong. Sometimes I feel patchy. I don't know.
This is not my arm today. Like,
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Like it's just asleep, and you're just like, oh wait, oh yeah, nope, that's my arm.
Well, I wish I could feel like I had a new back.
That would be nice.
That would be so nice.
Yeah, I mean, Frankenstein's monster is not only one of the most iconic figures in horror, but also a symbol of humanity's deepest fears. Can't wait to talk about it.
It takes some interesting turns as we get into the modern day. There's a lot of parallels that I don't know if people pay attention to.
You know what people should do about taking interesting turns?
Ooh, what should they do, Josh?
Oh man, they should like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be an interesting turn.
That would be very interesting because you would get all the updates to everything we put out. And if you follow us on social, you can interact with us there, ask questions. If you want to be a guest, you can email us at
SSOSpodcast@gmail.com.
boom, 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 boom,
Nice.
fireworks.
Wah, 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 wah. Insert party noises here.
All right. You guys ready to get into Frankenstein's monster?
Oh man, this is gonna be good. I've been waiting for this one.
Right. I think he's like an easy favorite for people. Like I don't think people
100%.
really hate Frankenstein. I think everyone kind of has a soft spot for him. So
Yeah.
if he's your boy and you want to vote for him, comment down below, let us know. All right. So before we dissect Frankenstein's monster, we'll talk about how the book got started and kind of where the idea came from. It was the summer of 1816. It was the year without a summer. So that was due to a volcano eruption in Indonesia. Mount Tambora erupted, which is one of the largest explosions or the largest explosion of a volcano on record. So that whole summer, the volcano ash and all the aerosol blocked out the sun. And it actually changed the global temperature anywhere from 2 to 7 degrees. So you kind of got to drop.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
Yeah, so Europe was plunged into gloom. Everything was black on top of the fact that, things were kind of already gross from being in Europe, like we've talked about in the past. You got now no sunlight in an already wet, gloomy environment, which is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Love you, England, by the way.
We're gloomy, but we love you.
Yeah, we do. The UK was good to me, at least. Not my wallet, but to me.
Yeah.
The cold temperatures obviously impacted crops, which caused famine and all kinds of illness, I'm sure, on top of everything. That's what they were contending with in this year. But in particular, that summer, Mary Shelley was living with Lord Byron and her future husband, Percy Shelley. So she's hanging out, they're bored. So they came up with an idea to see who could write the best ghost story.
Wow.
So they're literally just coming up with a whole literary genre instead of like beach summer vibes.
Yeah.
And you have the perfect atmosphere. I mean, it's like it was a dark and stormy night.
Definitely emo vibes, definitely dark, gloomy nights. You can totally see where at least the setting for a ghost story was put into play. But Mary Shelley kind of went in a little bit of a different direction because, as we know, Frankenstein's not quite a ghost. She took the challenge and ran with it, and she created what we today know as Frankenstein.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you,
But that's-
Volcano.
Yeah, no, thanks Volcano for your iconic literary character now. It's like she gets home from like this summer vacation and everybody's like, yo, what did you do this summer, Mary? And she's like, oh, just hung out by this beach, couldn't really do much, and then just invented a whole literary genre, modern horror, no biggie.
Yeah, and influenced like things for the next 200 years.
200 years.
And
we're still talking about it.
Yeah, and she is the shit and came out of this with like something to talk about while everyone else was like, wow, this is miserable. I lived way shorter than I should have, and now I didn't even get to read the book.
Wait,
you wrote a book? Then,
you can
most
write?
of them probably didn't read it.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah. I will tell you that when I was in Edinburgh, there is a big Frankenstein presence. There's like a museum and like a Frankenstein bar.
Oh, wow. That's really... Did you get to go?
Yeah, did you go to the Frankenstein bar?
Outside. But
Oh.
it was, first of all, I saw it during the day, so I wasn't really jumping into the bar. But
Gotcha.
I wanted to go to the...
I feel judged right now. Because I'm
I go to a bar during the day all the time.
I
Damn.
know, but when
I'm
you're
a
on
terrible
vacation,
person.
walking and like trying to get things done and see as much of a city as you can, and you have a 9-year-old with you, like
Yeah.
It's not little children in Victorian era just sitting at the bar drinking warm gin shots.
I miss my pa.
You had parents?
Give me another one.
Yeah. Oh, it's so dark.
Just this poor little chimney sweep lad.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's talk more about Mary Shelley. Imagine being, just in general, an 18-year-old in 1816. A woman, no less. Women were not highly regarded. It wasn't, well, let's say, we weren't known mainly for our minds in a lot of cases. So it had to have been just unimaginable to be around these literary heavyweights like Lord Byron and Percy. Absolutely no pressure at all to come up with a great story, I'm sure.
So did she like write anything prior to this, or was this like her first like debut book?
It's a good question. I really don't know, but still, imagine being a woman and like just even how hard it was for her to just get a word in. Like,
yes,
they're all probably sitting around like, oh, I got this story about a headless woman, and she's like, but,
yeah.
and they're like, go away, Mary. You don't know what the fuck you're doing.
So she did write a couple of things before Frankenstein. She wrote a poem in 1807 called, I'm going to butcher this, Monsieur Nogtongpaw. But that was through her, I guess. And that was through her dad's like company. So I mean, kind of like, hey, you did it. Put it on like the company fridge. And then she wrote a book, co-wrote a book with her husband that was published in 1817 called History of a 6 Weeks Tour. So definitely nothing binge-worthy like Frankenstein.
I want to know the context of that.
Of
Yeah.
the 6 weeks tour.
She wrote it,
grabbing me.
but she wrote it with her husband.
Yeah.
So is it like a chronicle of their tour? And like, does it have like all their fights and little like
It's just her diary.
Oh, I
Lord
doubt
Byron
it.
insisted we go right, and I told him we came from the left.
This fool had the map upside down.
He
Upside
refused
down.
to help.
We passed 3 small villages before you asked for help.
I wish. That'd be great.
Right? But then she just comes out of this contest and blows all these guys out of the water.
Well, and it's even more amazing the what the story was about. You know, the fact that she was able to talk about and write about science and bodies, corpses, even more. You know, without getting without getting the vapors and totally just falling out on the fainting couch. I mean, you know, that's pretty. You know, that would have been pretty impressive, and certainly not something that would have any man likely would have expected her to be able to carry a conversation about, much less create this, what we know now as Frankenstein. It just shows how intelligent she was, not just on the creative side, but just that she was obviously keeping up with, medical science and, things like that, that instead of just her embroidery or whatnot,
Or looking for a husband, finding a suitor.
Right, yeah.
Right.
I'm sure if we actually got the true history of what went on in this world, there'd be a lot more women in these pages of our history, for sure, with way bigger parts.
Oh, I bet.
I actually just learned Albert Einstein's wife
Mhm.
did all of his math.
What?
So theoretically, super smart guy, can do all this stuff, but not so good at finite math. So she, a woman who was in the school with him, in all his classes, I forgot the exact reason. I'm pretty sure it's probably just a woman thing. She wasn't able to graduate.
What?
So she's just as learned, just as smart, but doesn't have the degree. So he had her do, I don't know if he had, I shouldn't say it like that. She did a lot of his actual math work.
She just did a bunch of backseat math and was like, come on, Albert, you didn't carry the 2 this time.
Right.
Now the whole universe is going to fall apart.
Sloppy, you have to show your work. No one's going to know what M equals.
What is this?
No, see, I learn stuff like this all the time, and I'm always amazed at how easy it was for men to just rewrite or leave women out of history.
It's absolutely crazy. And then the other crazy thing is when she published Frankenstein, she had to do it anonymously because these publishers thought that people wouldn't take it seriously because a woman wrote this amazing book, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
That they sat there and thought that a woman couldn't do this.
It still happens today. J.K. Rowling, the reason why she's J.K. is because she had trouble publishing as a woman. Granted, I don't really like her as a person.
Yeah, she's questionable at best.
Her book is pretty good.
It makes you wonder, what other books out there that we'll never know, from history, were actually written by women.
Well, there's way, way more than we ever thought. And I mean, essentially, like we said, she kind of invented the whole science fiction genre with this. Before this, I doubt there were too many people brave enough to combine the themes that she was combining of creation and responsibility and science, and put them all in a work of fiction at that.
Yeah, she literally, like you said, created science fiction, but then also created the horror genre and then just mashed them together.
Perfectly.
It's so good. And I would consider Frankenstein to be definitely an A monster, he's up there with
A-team?
Dracula. Yeah, A-team monster, not a B team.
But let's pause because one, like you said, Josh, everyone kind of gets the monster and the doctor confused. But while we're talking about this, I'm sure most listeners and even me have a picture in their mind of what Frankenstein is or looks like.
Green, he's got the stitches, staples on his forehead, bolts out of his neck.
Yep.
Very Herman Munster.
Very. That's not
He's in
Mary.
black and white for me.
Yeah, so that's not Mary's monster. Shelley's monster was way more a group of gathered parts from corpses. And she actually doesn't go into a lot of detail in the book of where she's sourcing the actual parts from. You kind of just get a rundown of obviously the brain needs to be from a newer corpse and things like that. But the person you just described, or the monster you just described, Josh, is due to Boris Karloff.
My man.
That's your dude,
Boris.
huh?
It is.
Yeah, so he portrayed Frankenstein in the 1931 Universal movie, and that's kind of what everybody thinks of when they think of Frankenstein. Like you said, flat head, bolts in the neck, stitches across the forehead, slow, lumbering, kind of unarticulate, he doesn't really talk too well. Yeah. Compared to Mary Shelley, whose monster is very articulate, and he's basically spent his whole existence studying people and questioning them and really getting into philosophy. So there's
Do you think that there was like two different versions of him because of like the two different time periods, like, you know, in 31 and back in 200 years later. So like in her time, so like they were very like poetic and everything like that. So she made her monster to be almost like philosophical, like you said, and then Boris made his to be more monster-y because of his time that he lived in.
I mean, you could look at it that way. I think it probably has more to do with novel and literature versus visuals on a screen.
Yes.
That's fair.
I will always tell people, read the book. I think your mind will always do a better job at scaring you or making a scene in a picture than having it presented to you. And then sometimes you don't think any deeper about it. You kind of just see it and it goes past. In a book, you know, you're there for a page. And then you're even in books, you want to go back and you want to be like, wait, but he said this or he said, you know. So I think it lent itself better to have a monster that's kind of not as smart and just big and scary for film.
Exactly.
Well, he killed it because he made a cultural icon.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. To the point that it's almost, you forget, you know, for those, if you have actually read the book, you forget that, you know, it wasn't like that at all.
And you almost have a hard time like reversing your image in your mind.
Yeah.
Think about what Mary's monster looked like versus what Boris portrayed. Like I don't have a solid image for Mary's. Like it kind of, whatever mood I'm in, however dark, it's a little bit more zombie and ghoulish. If it's a little bit, if I'm in a better mood, you know, he's a little bit more dignified.
Dapper,
yeah.
And, you know, just even, it's not only just about the look, you know, Karloff also brought a great sense of humanity to the monster. I think it's hard for anybody to not feel bad for the monster, I feel. You know, we talked about some of these others, you know, especially just the last time with the creature or Gilman, and that can be a little more, I could see people, you know, kind of maybe going either way, but there is no way you cannot feel bad for the monster who just, you know, he didn't ask to be here. He didn't ask for this to happen. But yeah, he is definitely made out to be, you know, to look very scary, and the lumbering movements, not really human, but displaying some of those still like loneliness, you know, or longing to belong, those human traits that Karloff brought to us.
And you think like what kind of talent that takes to outwardly look nothing like you are feeling. Like he's unapproachable, he's big, he's scary, and at the same time when you're looking at him, he's able to give you that like sense of almost like a hurt kitten. Like
like you just want to pity him.
Like, how do I want to hug this monster right now? And like you said, the loneliness and the way he's able to like bring that aspect to life, I think really cements everybody's picture of Frankenstein. The monster that like you want to hug, like everyone feels bad for him,
and especially since he had no lines, you know, it wasn't anything you could, you know, express that emotion that way. So that's kind of hard, a frozen face, and he still manages to get it across.
Again, it's amazing, these silent actors.
I couldn't imagine it. And then, you know, the special effects and makeup and everything that we talked about, Gilman, like those guys are top notch, like especially for back then. And the person that came up with Frankenstein's iconic flat head and the neck bolts, it was this makeup artist named Jack Pierce, actually. And Karloff definitely brought this artist's vision to life like no one else could. Like just the physical performance and everything that we've been talking about, how this monster moved in Karloff's movie, it's just perfect to the T.
It really is. And it almost makes you want to be a fly in the wall, like we talked about with the creature and that costume design, and now we're talking about this. I want to see that relationship, artist, actor, And like, again, I don't know if we talked about this on camera, but I was telling you, Josh, that I've been watching The Penguin, and the makeup they're doing on Colin Farrell is like
Phenomenal.
top notch. It's some of the best makeup I've seen, because he's not a monster, but I don't see Colin Farrell anywhere in that makeup. And the acting, the way he's able to articulate through the makeup, that relationship of what that takes for an artist to be flexible enough to work with the demands and the physical shape of an actor. You think like in this, for a Frankenstein, like you have to be big and hulking, so your body now is hidden. So any of those micro movements that you would see on camera from a uncostumed actor are gone. Like they're gone. The micro movements of the face, your cheeks, around your mouth, all the stuff that we as humans look at constantly to read people is covered. And these actors aren't talking and still able to portray all the aspects that we just talked about. It's really kind of like a phenomenon. Like it's really magic to think that they can do that.
Literally transform somebody into something else and just fool all of the senses.
Yeah.
And I think, just in the black and white film era, how it's even harder. It was even harder. I think all of those directors and cinematographers, they need a lot of credit, because when you're working in that medium, just think the casting of shadows and things like that they were constantly having to be aware of, and bringing out just any costume for character and stuff when you can't color. It still just amazes me. And I forget, like sometimes I can't remember the color ratios for black and white, but some of the time they would be dressed like so crazy, color wise, but just for it to
the contrast.
And the makeup that they would have to wear would be these,
so crazy. It really is. To go backwards in film time and see the things they were pulling off with their limited tech or tools, like to even think, so you're on a black and white set, obviously lighting has to be like your number one priority. You don't have battery packs to like drag around these nice DeWalt lights that are just popping up, and like you're got to think about time of day, angle of the sun, like all those things are coming in now, and if you're not at the right spot in the right angle, like your shot's completely wasted. You can't go back in and go, I'm just going to digitally add a little bit of sun here. Like,
no.
Every time we talk about this, I just think about that movie Nosferatu, like how they did that.
Oh,
like,
especially
with like the makeup of the vampire, and it's just all black and it blows my mind.
Hollywood back then was a different world. It definitely has that romanticized feel. I think it's even lost today completely. Like it used to feel it if you went to like Universal theme parks, like you used to get that like glitz and glam feel of being like on the lots and like the set, and now it's so like there's just Transformers everywhere, and
it's because they just use green screens and CGI.
Well, all right, now that we gushed over 1950s film era,
I can do that forever.
Let's talk about the actual plot of Frankenstein.
Yes.
So if you haven't read the novel starts with Victor Frankenstein, who is the doctor, everybody. I'm saying it now again. He is the doctor. He creates the monster. But he's a young scientist, and he's obsessed with unlocking the mysteries of life and death. He studies for years. The first few chapters or sections of the book are kind of him just toiling with going over his notes and what he's been doing, and correspondence back and forth between friends and family. And we kind of get this picture of a scientist who is desperately looking to push the boundaries of what humanity knows as science and creation and power, essentially. So he eventually figures out how to reanimate things with electricity. And you know what do you do then? You just go dig up body parts and sew them together.
Because it starts with animals and then you graduate to people.
It's so
But
crazy.
he just did it in reverse
jump.
because they were already dead.
Yeah, that jump of like, oh, I can bring this thing back to life. Let's just take all parts of people. And like, I'd still have a hard time understanding that part of the whole thing. Like, you're digging up graves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does mention that he wants it to be unrecognizable and he doesn't want people to know that he just stole like one person from a
Parts of
grave.
their people.
Yeah.
But still, you can like just take a different head. Like, so whole bunch of red flags right there. If you're interested in dating Victor, know that he is obsessed with bringing things back to life and cobbling body parts together.
Great.
So-
pastime.
Eventually, he succeeds, and he does create a monster. He then immediately abandons ship.
Yeah.
He's like, I am out.
I love it so much that he's just like, oh wait, okay.
It's like
bye.
you didn't think you'd get that far or something. It's like,
Yeah, it's just so wild to think like, I got this thing up and moving now. All my goals have been reached, and I'm not even gonna be like, "Hi, my name's Victor." It's like just
Oh,
leave him in
shit.
the room.
You
Bye.
know what? Man, I'm out of cigarettes. And then he never came back.
The ultimate father story.
right.
That's why
Oh, no.
Frankenstein's monster is just so sad. He's like, my dad said he was going to get cigarettes.
That's, I
And
mean,
he never came back.
not that far off.
Yeah, it definitely starts to get interesting from that point. The monster, he is left all alone. He definitely does not start off as evil, but when you're left by yourself, he's very childlike. He's innocent in a way. He's obviously confused. I can't imagine when you just wake up, you're a brain in a cobbled together body. I feel like there's a lot going on at the moment and very, very confusing. So he's trying to figure out who he is and why he even exists. What an existential question right there.
I was gonna say, aren't we all?
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I wonder that every day I look in the mirror. Why do I exist? What is happening? I didn't ask for this.
But
So
in another episode, you'd find out you did ask for this, Josh.
Ooh.
So he does what one does when they wake up in this situation. He wanders the world. He learns about people and their emotions. And he even secretly observes a family that's living out in a cottage. And he's just trying to understand human connection.
Poor guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, it's
I bet
sad.
you they just reject him, right? And they're just because they're terrified of this like creature. And he's
Yeah,
like, no, I
he's
just
like-
want to be loved.
Right.
No. He learns to read and write, and even with all that, like, he walks up to someone, they literally scream in his face and run the other way, or
Yeah.
pass it.
Man. I was just watching Van Helsing the other night, the one with Kate Beckinsale and
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman, and I'm glad that we're doing Frankenstein today because like that is just fresh in my mind, and it's just like I want to live, and everybody's just like, no, you're terrifying and ugly, and you shouldn't be here. And he's just like, I didn't ask for this.
And he really didn't. That's the tragedy of Frankenstein, that on a fully based out level is like he didn't even ask to be part of this world, and his owner daddy leaves him, teaches him nothing,
Right.
and then sent into the world of humans, which we all know is just such a happy accepting place.
Oh man, I've found nothing but happiness and acceptance. What are
That's
you talking
right.
about?
I've never felt
Same.
judged or
Never.
isolated or depressed.
What?
No, you just go to the group of people and they accept you
Yep.
without fail.
100%.
every time.
My experience, yeah.
And
Is it in Karloff's? I can't remember because there's been so many adaptations. Just jumping back to the movie part for just a second.
Mhm.
But where the monster, instead of observing a family, he finds a man that's blind. Isn't that Karloff's version?
I don't know.
Ooh, I don't know. That's
I have like 3 different versions because I also have one where he meets a little girl.
yeah.
But I think that's in color. I'm getting them all jumbled. I do
think
this
it is in
with
color.
I think it might have been Karloff's, but I'm not sure. Someone will tell us, I'm sure. But but instead of that, he finds that, he stumbles into this man, and he's an older man, he's blind, and he takes him, right in, and then the evil, villagers find out, and there you go. But that was an interesting play where the film scene
like
actually
that.
tried to bring in, to show how looks can be deceiving.
Yeah.
The looks.
Acceptance. Yeah.
And I guess the other comparison is like we were talking about. So blind, obviously they can't see what he looks like.
Yes.
But a child also is not so quick to judge what you look like. So it's interesting that it's either like you have to be blind or completely innocent and a child. Once you become an adult, you have too many ideas, too many fears, and
your the view
worries.
of the world gets skewed. Yeah.
Yes.
I think we should all be taking lessons.
Shout outs to Mary Shelley for really making us feel our feels.
Yes.
And think about these themes. And like we were talking about earlier, the themes of creation and the fact that Victor basically saw himself as a god and was hell-bent on creation and did not think about his responsibilities of that creation whatsoever.
Right.
It's all ambition and no responsibility. And like we said, there's a modern day debate going on that's kind of in the same arena. So if you talk about creating a monster in a physical form and letting it loose into the world, we're doing the same thing today with AI. And
yes,
we're creating this thing, we're giving it complex thought and all these things. And I think what's a little bit scarier about AI is that when you have a doctor like Victor creating it, like, who to blame. Like, it was this guy and he did it. Like, AI is open source and there are hundreds of thousands of people putting their input into this thing we really know nothing about.
Nothing.
So I think that's a kind of interesting thing that we now have fast forwarded 200 years and find ourselves right in the same position in a way realer way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then AI has like access to literally everything because we've just given it access to so many things. Do you want Terminators? Because this is how you get Terminators.
Every single time. But there's a lot of good stuff that's come out of AI so far. And it's going to be a hard few years or decades figuring out where to place the training wheels on this thing, because I've listened to teachers have both viewpoints on how it's good and how it can help, and then I've heard teachers just say like, all my kids are just submitting ChatGPT written essays. I found an interesting teacher who said the same thing, like, all my students are turning to ChatGPT to write their work. He or she, I don't remember, didn't discourage it. She actually encouraged it. So instead of being like, you failed, whatever, she would take the paper they wrote, go through it with the student, find out where the AI made mistakes, source the information that the AI found and fact check it, and also correct the grammar and the mistakes that AI makes. So essentially, you're learning the same lessons, just a little backwards. So I feel like there's ways to use it and not completely make ourselves just dumb and dependent on it. But is that really what we're going to do?
Exactly. Is that where it will stop?
No.
That's if history tells us anything, no. No, it won't stop. And
we're not gonna Uncle Bennett, where there's no great power comes great responsibility.
No.
We're terrible.
No.
Another theme that pops up in this book and the movies and everything is isolation, and you could say that both Victor and his monster were both very incredibly isolated characters and people and beings and stuff, but they had their different reasons for being isolated. So Victor isolates himself because of his obsession with his work and wanting to play God and figuring out the mysteries of life and death. So he cuts himself off from family, friends, and quite honestly, reality. Because who thinks about this? And then just sets this all in motion, and that's your life's work. And then the monster is isolated because society obviously rejects him, and he is just feeling so alone because he's literally a child left alone by his creator. It's about what happens when you're cut off from that human connection, that human element, where you don't get those things that everybody else seems to have, and then you're wondering why you don't have those things.
Exactly. And that, brings you to the classic nature versus nurture.
Mm-hmm.
And so the monster, like we've said, starts off innocent. He is certainly not, born or inherently evil. I'm about to say evil.
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 Very Dr. Evil.
It was. I was looking for where that came from. Oh, wow. Anyway, but after facing constant rejection and cruelty, he turns vengeful. And I don't think anybody can really blame him for having that reaction. And she just does such a good way of, just the human nature, what happens, if someone in our lives, is constantly berating you or beating you down or whatever, you can do the kill them with kindness thing for so long. And then, most of us, eventually the claws are going to come out. And so she's definitely making, her readers ask the question, are we born good or evil, or do our experiences shape who we become? And I think we're all still trying to figure that out. We know in our society, we have, 8-10-year-olds committing murders and things, and we're brought this question all the time, is it possible that some people are just born bad, that kind of thing. But in the monster's case, no, I feel that's a definite.
No, and both of your points, the isolation and the nature versus nurture, it's really interesting to look at them if he had the things. So if he wasn't isolated and he at least had Victor, maybe the world wouldn't accept him, but he would have a family.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How much would that change him? And if he was just nurtured in society as well, what could have been as an experiment of the human consciousness and existence of a created being who we need two Frankensteins. We need one that we care for, love, and send through life, and then one we isolate to see the contrast. Because it's very interesting to see, would he have just been a full-blown scientist? Would he have created more life? What would Frankenstein's monster done?
Ooh.
Ooh, do you think he would have followed in the doctor's footsteps?
Well, there's
or would he have
want.
become Igor, essentially?
When we get to that part in the book, there's the want that he doesn't want to be alone, and Victor essentially begins to create another Frankenstein.
The Bride of
monster.
Frankenstein.
Yeah. It's, again, take out what we know about humanity and how bad we are, and insert actual nurture, care, and love that we should be giving things. The vast difference. We wouldn't be talking about it, first of all, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, it'd be really interesting to see how much further you could advance with nurturing and caring.
Right.
Well, it's sad when you realize how far we haven't come, society as a society, when, people today, if they have any sort of, deformity or don't look a typical way, or a disability, how people, there are still, people, you can see, videos and people talking about what they experience of people, damn near literally crossing the street to get away from someone. And that's just embarrassing as a society that, she's bringing those themes up. And we know good and well, if you had any sort of, did not look, as a normal person in the 1800s, that you were going to an asylum or, it wasn't good for you. And as a society,
left out on the street.
I mean, we don't do that, but how do people still treat, and what are they thinking internally still about someone with differences? It's not a good look still for us.
No, and even more so, I think we run into modern day, it's like institutionalized. It's not even so much like societal, like friendships and family. Like, you will be judged by the way you look at that interview for your job.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Like
100%,
not how you're
yeah.
dressed, not your physical person will be judged. And it's amazing, like you said, 200 years past this novel, and we still haven't put that away as a society. Like, the pretty person will go further, the pretty person will have less obstacles. Like,
Correct.
and it's sad because it's such a fact. Like,
Yes.
it's not, it's so solidified in our society.
Oh yeah, worst kept
Yeah.
secret, all the psychology we have now with all the, here we are, still the basics.
It's hard to keep a mind open enough in this world to not be like that, because everybody on a certain level is making those snap judgments, and part of it's just our survival. We're wired, like we have to. If you're walking down the street alone, especially as a woman, like, unfortunately the physical makeup of the people around you influence your behavior almost more than your person does.
Oh yeah.
You lose autonomy, and
That's very true.
it's not necessarily something that I think we can just turn off. Like, I don't think we can turn that off. I think we're hardwired to judge.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, again, we're on these themes of like, can you have both? So like we said, he creates this monster and does not think about the consequences at all, not one bit, and just leaves this monster. Which just, it's hard to like imagine that as a parent, as a dog owner, as like,
Right.
Yeah,
you put in all this work
right.
To
and
make
you
this
finally,
thing.
and you just, it's so fascinating that that was the choice that he made.
Hey man, those cigarettes must have been real good, but he had to go get them from very far away.
Yeah, Turkish, maybe.
Turkish.
Turkish
Turkish
dog.
royals.
He's obviously the villain in the book, and it's funny to think that when most people are talking about how bad Frankenstein is and how much of a monster he is, like, the doctor's never in the conversation. Like, you don't see him on Halloween. No one dresses up as Frankenstein, the doctor.
Well, yeah, he messes up big time and then just blames it on everybody else. And then in the book, he's avoiding the fallout of his decisions instead of owning them. He's just a real McDick bag.
Yeah, it's definitely a tale for modern times as well. I know a few people that
Yeah.
running around doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad. It's like, you can imagine just a real parent-child. I think we all know somebody dysfunctional that, has that sort of relationship, like, well, why don't you love me? What have I ever done? And those questions that just, would eat at anybody. But you know, in the monster's case, and I hate even at this point even calling him a monster, but you know,
Right.
it's just this cycle, this vicious cycle that, you know, Victor is just not going to take responsibility. He's not going to be the dad that he should be, and this poor kid, the monster, is suffering the consequences for it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's hard to sympathize with him because every decision he makes is the wrong one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, of course, at the end, you would be like the ultimate revenge monster.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Flip
I
the
mean,
fuck out.
It's just
I just can't
pain
believe-
and rejection, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I think we've all at some point, you know, felt that, you know, and
Yeah.
those are hardcore feelings.
Hard
and
feels.
especially for, you know, for the monster, I mean, we may, you know, experience it just by like one person or, you know, whatever, one situation at a time. But he's got everybody rejecting him,
Mhm.
like with the whole village.
Yeah, it's like that feeling when you're at the grocery store and the guy's like, "Oh, you know, have a good day," and you say like
Yeah,
"Good
you
morning" or
mess
"Good
it up.
night,"
Yeah.
and like it's just you're getting in your car and you're like, "I'm a fucking idiot."
Yeah.
Jesus.
Like what? Like I said, you two enjoy your movie to the guy who sent me a movie ticket. Like, like he's
Or
constantly,
thank you. Yeah, you too.
yeah, like constantly playing these moments back in his mind, in his limited memory. He's born, he's rejected again, ran from, scared, like all the horrible things. Is all his memories are bad. And
Yeah.
it's
I'm
very
getting
easy.
angry.
Oh
Right?
yeah, and then this dickhead Victor, you know,
Yeah.
he makes the ultimate mistake, and then he's like starts to build a second creature because like he's like, okay, cool, I can understand that you're alone, and then he destroys the fucking thing out of
Yeah.
fear.
That's what I mean. Like every choice he makes is the wrong one. Like
Yeah.
even if you were scared of what like your second creation would do, like create it and run away then. Like,
Yeah,
like why not
at least
just
they'll be together.
just go through the whole process. He just is, I guess, ultimately selfish.
Just no follow through.
No.
Yeah. All right. I think we're able to jump down to a monster showdown now.
Yes,
we could- It's a tough, interesting battle, let's say, so far. So far we have, I'll just go through who we've completed and who's actually on this roster. So we have Dracula, we have the werewolf, we have the creature from the Black Lagoon, and now at 8 foot tall, 400 pounds, entering Frankenstein.
Yeah. Depending on what version you create.
Right. Oh man, like what are his attributes? Like, is he like super strong? Because like, what is he? He's not very agile.
I
No,
was gonna
he's
say in
not
the
as-
movie, yes, he's very strong. Like he can just send you through a wall.
Yeah.
Like a
So he's definitely got size, and we're gonna go with the one that we know physically.
okay in the
Top.
movies.
The Boris call
Okay, I was gonna say yeah.
for the fight, for the sake of the fight. He's just big and strong, and I guess the question is, how killable is an undead creature?
Well, I mean, I guess technically 2 out of the 4 are already undead.
Yeah.
Right?
So obvious, I think no matter what, Dracula's on top.
I don't think Dracula's. I mean, like Dracula would like rip him apart probably, but like it's not like he would like be able to feed off of him because like it's dead blood. So then
Yeah.
wouldn't that
No.
be like poisonous
But
to the
he would-
vampire?
Maybe.
I think
See,
so.
but I think what ends up always happening in, not always, but I think what happens a lot of times when you mix monsters in monster movies and it's supposed to be like this one versus that one,
Yeah.
somehow Dracula gets like the werewolf to work for him and Frankenstein to work for him.
Well, yeah, because it's like the mind control.
Yeah, he's like,
where he can
yeah.
hypnotize. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's
So-
why Dracula tends to always win because he's got so many skills.
Yeah, he could turn into vapor and control animals and
Yeah, I mean, the monster to me, he's just too slow.
Yeah, I could see Dracula controlling the werewolf to fight Frankenstein and just rip him to literal shreds.
See, I think Frankenstein could fight a werewolf.
Oh man, I think that would be.
Well,
I don't know. They're
yeah,
both super
'cause he
strong.
can-
The werewolf's got agility. He's got claws. And
Yeah, but he
fangs.
comes at him, and he's just like,
I mean,
"Pink," literally.
That's the thing. The only way to hurt Frankenstein is to get close enough to hurt Frankenstein. So, like, your speed is a little bit negated there because if he's got to bite him, he's got to be next to him. And I just picture, like, even if he bites, like, his neck, like, Frankenstein's just going to grab his head and rip his jaw and, like,
Yeah.
rip his head off from the top of his jaw. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I wanna keep going on my werewolf strong game, but like, I mean, Frankenstein's literally built like a brick shit house. He's like the mountain from Game of Thrones.
Dracula kind of is top dog when it comes to fighting.
So far.
Werewolf, I think, gets beat by Frankenstein.
It'd be a very close fight.
It
And
would
the
be an
creature
amazing
can
fight.
still outswim him.
I think the creature might put up a fight against Frankenstein.
I know,
Think so?
'cause
I think the fact that it, first of all, could do land and water.
Oh,
So
if the
that's
creature
how
just drags
speedy-
Frankenstein into the water.
It's got its scales, super tough scales. So we don't know what that is against, like, blunt force. We know it can't.
right.
Or
The
like
bullet can't hurt
ripability, because like Frankenstein could probably just rip you, like pick you up by your arms and just rip them out of your body.
Yeah,
Or if he just kept him on land too long.
And
he would
just
have
dried
to,
out.
but Frankenstein would have to know that information. And we know that he's
Oh,
not
no.
fully educated.
Yeah, he's not fully developed. He's just
That's right.
So-
He's got the,
yeah, he's not he's not Mary Shelley's monster. He's
Could
the
the
book, the
monster-
movie monster.
Could the creature from the Black Lagoon somehow position Frankenstein, even if it's not pure water, if you put Frankenstein in like a marsh or like mud?
Oh, he's stuck.
He's stuck, yeah.
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 So I actually think that, like, again, our sleeper, the creature from the
creature?
Black Lagoon comes in
Yeah.
a little bit right now, I think, and I think could best Frankenstein.
Oh, man, let us know in the comments below
Yeah.
who you guys think would win this one.
Yeah, it's turning out to be an
I
interesting
know,
fight.
it's getting
I
tougher
can't wait
than
to
I
see
thought.
like the results of the vote.
I know. And then next week we'll be talking about The Mummy,
Oh man, it's
which
a whole different
adds a
slew of-
whole other level of, like, wait, what are we fighting?
Yeah, like what is this thing?
You have to
I
print
know
that
we'll
one too.
we'll have to talk about it in the episode, because now we're talking about, like, magic and curses and spells and shit. So
Oh, sure.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
you add that to The Mummy, and I don't know, man.
It's definitely getting close. I love spooky season, man.
I know, I'm super excited, and, like, yeah, we're gonna get down to our countdown. So definitely, if you have an opinion, you got to put it down in the comments, because we're gonna tally up and we're gonna figure out this Monster Mash. And if your guy doesn't win, I don't want to hear it if you didn't vote.
I feel like we all have like our own monster we want to win.
Oh,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, I am definitely a Dracula fan. Like, I think Dracula's going to win, but I'm really kind of surprised by the creature. Like,
Yeah,
he's
no, so far he was what,
becoming,
2-0?
like, a little bit of a favorite of mine right now.
Mhm.
The undisputed champion of the swamp.
So let's talk a little bit about the movies and the books that this monster has influenced, because I think even more so than, obviously, the creature doesn't have that many offshoots. Werewolf kind of does, but never really changes. I think Frankenstein, we've seen a ton of different versions.
Yeah.
And I think more so than some of the other ones, we're seeing Frankenstein without seeing Frankenstein, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So-
like the Frankenstein trope, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yep. So, movies like Edward Scissorhands,
Yeah.
like a movie where, like, he's isolated, he's kind of
He
the
was
town
created.
freak. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
created. So there's a ton of movies that have been influenced by her and the monster. One I find interesting that I didn't really think personally was involved in, like, a representation of Frankenstein is Blade Runner.
Oh damn. I didn't think about that either.
No, but the aspects of artificial life and the consequences of creating a being are
Yeah.
all there in that movie. Again, we're watching Frankenstein without watching Frankenstein.
Mhm.
So
That's true.
obviously, things like Ex Machina.
I still haven't seen that movie, but I want to so bad.
Oh,
I
man.
pass it every time, and it's on my to watch.
It's a good flick. It's a good flick, but it is just a modern day version of Frankenstein. And it deals more with our AI partner that's too real these days.
Yeah. Oh man, can we talk about Young Frankenstein though with
Oh,
Gene
no.
Wilder?
That's Frankenstein gold right there.
That is the best.
That's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. The I don't know what you call it, but the fireplace scene, like that whole, like, as a kid,
I'm trying to
was like-
remember.
I loved like that whole thing. Well, he has I don't know if it's a book or a lamp, whatever, but the door turns around.
Oh,
fireplace
yes,
and the
yes,
book
okay.
turns around.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gene Wilder's.
He's
the
a
best.
legend, absolutely.
Talk a little bit about Gene on a side note. I didn't know that like he was like scary and mean to the kids in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh
Was
really?
he?
Like while he was, he didn't want anyone to be able to predict what he was doing. So
God,
like,
he's such a genius.
like the boat scene that everyone, there's no
Oh, yeah.
knowing. Like he was terrifying those people.
It's a terrifying scene.
And like he had all the people worried, like the first when you see him and he comes out of the factory and he tumbles,
Yeah.
didn't tell anybody he was going to do that. So like all the
Oh,
grips
wow.
and everybody on the side are like, oh shit, and he pops up, he's like, I'm fine. Like just
Oh, that's
the
wild.
genius that was
Yeah.
that.
Man, I miss Gene Wilder. He was a
Yeah.
national treasure.
Absolutely. No, can we please stop making Wonka movies?
Yeah, no, I'm done with
Give
it.
it up.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's my plea to the world. All time favorite movie to like watch with my wife during Halloween, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, absolutely.
Like a year does not go by where we don't watch that movie.
It's such a good one.
Yep. And then you get
Right, Dr.
Frankenfurter.
Frankenfurter.
That whole, again, one of those things that you watch when you're a kid. Like everything was
Blows
beyond
past
me.
your head.
It's just it's a sensory overload. Like there's transvestites, there's like half naked women, there's motorcycles, there's monsters, there's dancing. Like
It is everything I want in a movie.
I remember being little and just being like, they made this. Like
What is happening?
and like they full out acted it out and made this movie. And I'm so happy they did.
Sure.
No.
There's that movie with the guy that I can't ever remember his name, but he played Professor Xavier in the movie. Not Patrick Stewart, but the other guy, the younger dude, and
The
and then,
Scottish guy.
yeah, the Scottish guy, and then it's got Daniel Radcliffe in it. I think it's called Victor Frankenstein or something.
Oh no,
That's such a
I
good
haven't
one.
seen that. Speaking of Daniel Radcliffe and dead bodies, Swiss Army Man,
It's such a good movie.
one of
Also,
the best dead person movies ever. If you haven't seen that, Jen, it's I forgot the other actor's name, but he's also a very famous actor. He's going through like a mental break, like someone, I think it passes away in his family or something like that, but he ends up finding a corpse
in the woods. Yeah,
in the woods.
and it's
Well, he's
Daniel
living-
Radcliffe.
It's Daniel Radcliffe, but he imagines, or the body itself is able to do all these like things, like swim and fly. And,
Turns into a speedboat.
Yeah,
He's literally like a Swiss Army man.
it's on the surface, it's a movie that, like, I sound crazy explaining right now. It's hard to explain, but it's an amazing watch. Like, you have to watch that movie. Not many Frankenstein things, except it's dead. Any books you guys can think of that are influenced by the book or the movie?
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
There you go. Yeah.
Mm.
I actually don't think I've ever read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which
It's a
I'm
good one.
embarrassed to say.
Yeah,
I
not
read it,
really.
I try to
when I was
read
a
all
kid.
these things.
Honestly. Mm-mm.
I had I went to like Books A Million or whatever, and it was like a pack of like Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll, the
nice.
Wolfman, Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and shit like that. It was so cool.
Nice. I'll have to put that on the list.
Didn't your boy Stephen King do Pet Sematary, and that's kind of like influenced
Yeah,
by Frankenstein?
That's got a whole lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
like responsibility and like death. Like if you have the power to bring something back,
Should you?
do you do it? Should you do it? What comes back? Is it the same thing that comes
Right.
back? Which is the heavy theme in Pet Sematary, that when you put them in the ground, it's not what you put in the ground that comes back. Also,
Jurassic Park.
that's big creation.
Oh,
Again,
yeah.
they kind of fucking did a Victor Frankenstein. He created all these things and were like,
Peace
yeah,
out. Out of control.
we'll just push this really loud alarm and just leave the island. Jurassic, that is interesting though. Like,
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
you are creating something and you are leaving it there. But
Yeah.
do you care as much? I guess you should. You should
because you're
nurture. It's a
creating something
creature.
that's out of time and bringing it literally to your time, and
That's
you
true.
can't control that.
Let's see, the Island of Dr. Moreau. That's a good one.
That is
Yes.
a really good one.
That's another one of those movies when I was a kid. I was like,
It's just
what
weird.
the fuck
Yeah,
am
what
I
is happening?
watching? It
Yeah.
had the thing that was, it grossed me out. Didn't he have like a nub? Didn't the small person have like a
can't remember.
tail, like a nub?
Oh, a little nub tail.
Yes.
I think he did, and I think it bothered me so much in that movie. I don't know why. It's just
I
one of
can't
those things.
remember.
I
But yeah, that was a weird movie.
But yeah, I mean, that's a H.G. Wells.
So there you go.
Explains everything.
Well, I mean, like we said, there's endless things that influence or were influenced by Frankenstein. I am really curious to see what people have to say about Frankenstein versus the others. I have a feeling a lot of people don't want Frankenstein to fight. But he's a good guy.
I
He's gonna
know.
fight. He's gonna, when you push comes to shove.
Okay, here, I just thought of this. All right, so for your comments, we're going to do it Twilight style.
Oh God.
Comment team monster. So like, if you're a Dracula person, you're team Dracula, team werewolf, team creature, team Frankenstein. That's how it'll keep
There
it
we
nice and
go.
tight. And I'll be able to see, hopefully, quickly.
We'll start doing more polls.
Yeah.
I'll just throw some polls out there. Yeah. All right, everyone. That's been Frankenstein's monster. I hope
God, I love our spooky season stuff.
you
Yeah.
guys enjoyed it. Yeah, I have a lot of ideas. I've been writing stuff down for
Next year.
Next year. I also think that like we should probably do like a Halloween in spring or some shit. Like
Ooh,
Oh,
there
that'd
we
be
go.
fun. Yeah.
Instead of Christmas in July, it's Halloween and
yeah, like in
Something.
April or some shit, and then we'll
Yeah.
we'll do like monsters or I want to do like I think we talked about it last time, like Jason, Freddy,
yeah, add these guys to
those
it.
guys. But I was thinking about that, and then I thought of something even better that I really got excited about. I want to do like Jack the Ripper and like
Ooh.
historical true crime,
Oh.
like
Killers and
Lizzie
stuff like
Borden versus
know.
like Jack the Ripper. I think that'd be really cool. The way we break
Yeah.
things down, like the psychology behind them, the time, the error. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Write
Oh,
that
man,
down.
I still
Oh,
Yeah.
I've already wrote that down. That one I thought about. I told you, I got really excited. I was like, that's such a good idea. I can't wait to do
That
it.
is a great idea.
So yeah, I think maybe we'll put together a little bit more of these, like, we'll call them mini series.
yeah.
I think we're having a lot of fun with these. So I think we should
Our
do
little
it
monster
more.
mash bracket.
We have guests coming up. We have some interesting topics coming up. I'm excited for like Jen's first topic outside
Jen's
of
first
monsters.
mandate.
Yeah,
I
Jen's
know.
first extra episode mandate. And then yeah, if you guys have ideas for things you want us to cover, let us know. We're open. I love hearing about it. If you guys want to be a guest, email us, let us know. Anything else, guys?
No, just like and subscribe, follow us on all of our
Yes.
social medias, and stay up to date. And can't wait to see who comes out on top
Oh,
of this
yeah.
monster mash.
Yeah.
Me too.
Next week, mummies
Yeah.
going to Egypt.
Thank you for
Oh,
listening.
yeah.
If you would like to join us as a guest, suggest a topic, or have a story you want us to share, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at SSOSpodcast@gmail.com. For more behind-the-scenes updates and exclusive insights about SSOS, make sure to follow us on social media. And don't miss out on the fun. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, thank you for listening to the Secret Society of Strangers podcast. This show is an independent production, researched and crafted by our passionate team. But we couldn't do it without all of you. We truly appreciate
All right,
your
strangers.
support.
Thank you again.
Embrace the unknown,
Like we said,
for not
subscribe,
all
follow,
secrets are meant to be
email,
kept.
Socials.
Farewell,
Bye.
strangers.
Keep it strange.
Bye.